All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So we are on stage with Chris Muntz, the chief developer advocate for serverless, all things serverless, and also from CloudTrail. Bob. Sorry.
Odell. Bob Odell.
Bob Odell from CloudTrail, and you're the product manager.
Product manager. Yep.
For CloudTrail.
Yep.
And again, Adrian.
Hey.
So we're going to talk about a lot of serverless things. That
A lot of serverless things this week.
There were a tremendous number of really exciting announcements. And we're also going to be talking about something that we're kind of announcing here on stage, although the blog post has already gone out, which is CloudTrail integration with Lambda. So you can now have Lambda functions fire on CloudTrail events.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Super powerful from a security and compliance
excited.
standpoint.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of tell us a little bit more about that integration and how you think customers are going to use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we actually have Lambda support in CloudTrail. And we do it as a management event. So anytime you create a function, you modify a function, you delete a function, that's actually tracked today. But one of the things that we've been requested repeatedly about is more visibility into invoking the functions themselves. So our announcement today in our launch is the ability within CloudTrail as a new data event type to be able to log and record all of the Lambda Invoke API calls. So now a customer has visibility into, in a centralized way, really invoking all of their Lambda functions. They can see who's doing the invoking. They can fire off downstream workflow associated with it. They can count the number of times individual users or roles are calling their functions. A whole bunch of different use cases have come up. Really exciting to be able to provide it for our customers.
Do you want to, for the audience, I'm sure not everyone knows CloudTrail. Can you just summarize quickly what CloudTrail is?
Sure. So CloudTrail is really a fundamental service for AWS. Yeah. Any activity, any service events, any API calls from the services are recorded as part of CloudTrail. And really one of the great things it does is it's used really heavily for compliance.
So
compliance, auditing, absolutely. And not only for auditing, but also for troubleshooting, right? So you've got a history of everything that's went on. If you've got operational issues, if you've got security issues, you've got a single place to be able to go and see the activity of what exactly happened. So very, very widely used, and again, a really core service for AWS.
And I think, Chris, you can kind of walk us through all of these new features, right?
Yeah, we can walk you through all of the new features today.
His
so
demos.
if I can bring up my laptop here real quick.
30 features, 1 minute.
30 features, 1 minute. There we go. So we're right now looking at the CloudTrail console page. This is the configuration for my global trail in my account. And so what's new today under data events here is we can see the Lambda tab. You see all of the functions that I have here showing up across my account. And I can selectively choose which one of these I want to capture the data events for, or I can turn it on for all of them here globally. And so what I've done is enable this for all of them globally. I've gone and pounded away on one of my Lambda functions for a while and generated a whole bunch of information. And I'll actually pull up here a record just for those who could quickly parse JSON visually. But you see there's just a ton of information that's been generated per invocation from a single invocation from an API gateway. We've got all sorts of information that we're pulling up. Now we've got actually a number of our partners that are launching support for this today, tomorrow, coming real soon. Wanted to show real quick a screenshot from the dashboard from Sumo Logic, launching their integration for it. And so what they actually pull into here and visualize is just so much awesome information. And I'll kind of zoom in here because it's just so much information to see. We've got a user agent breakdown, basically what's invocating things, caller details, even things like maps of where the location of the calls are coming from, functions over time. There's all sorts of really interesting things you could do with this data that serverless customers using Lambda have not been able to do to today.
So it's a sort of operational dashboard for all your serverless.
Yeah, so you can get globally here from all of your Lambda invocations.
Right.
So let's say you were running like a multi-regional API. You can pull all of this in and get this data, again, useful for auditing, understanding overall usage. And so it's incredibly powerful from a security perspective, from an application accessibility perspective, there's a lot of stuff that this will enable.
Yeah, and in addition to Sumo, I mean, this has been so well received. We've actually had other partners that have already adopted it and built it into their platform, including companies like Rapid7, Savient, a lot of interest from others, such as Alert Logic and Evident.io. So there's definitely been a lot of demand on more visibility into serverless and Invoke API in particular.
Yep,
We're working backwards from customers, right? So what were the problems customer had previously, and what is this solving now?
Yeah, so when you have customers we have that have functions that maybe either have multiple different invocation sources, or they're trying to understand the various different users that might be invoking a Lambda function, you didn't necessarily have all the clarity that you might have needed to from an auditability perspective. That's just one example. And so this is one of the things that was built in reaction to getting that feedback from our customers.
Yeah, and so we recently, through a beta program, we're working with one of our customers, one of AWS's great customers, and their use case was really unique. So what they wanted to do is they knew for a certain set of functions who those callers should be. It only should come from certain services that are invoking these Lambda functions. Yeah. So they actually created a workflow where through a CWE rule downstream to some additional Lambda function and logic, they're able to now instantly detect almost in real time, within 1 to 2 seconds, of is the person that invoked this API, should that be the right person doing it? And if not, shoot off either another function that can automate some workflow or notify the correct individuals on the server team. It just was a great use case and real live use case of how to take this and really incorporate it into a business practice.
And I can see an easy integration with AWS config here, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Can you talk about a little bit?
So today you could integrate this through like a config rule, a custom config rule, and be able to track it. We'll look at maybe putting that into a managed rule at some point in the future, but yeah, being able to bring functions in and look at the history of those, I think would be a really cool thing as well.
Cool.
I would really love to see some of the new
new
function
console
editing console.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
Yes. So
okay.
A number of announcements today in Werner's keynote, a number of announcements this past week. A couple things I'll show you here. So we've recently gone through, over the last couple months, making various incremental changes to the Lambda console. Today was actually kind of the biggest push into that. So one of the things that was announced today was the ability for you to have concurrency controls for your functions. So we actually go here now, this dashboard, we see what my current account concurrency maximum is, what the limit is. We see how much of that is unreserved right now. So basically I have the ability to reserve it for certain Lambda functions. As we go down here through the metrics, then we can see executions, unreserved concurrency, a lot of interesting information. But actually what I want to do here is dive a little deeper into one of my functions. So I have a function here from a demo application that I have. And so this is the new console experience for Lambda. So just when you come in here, it just starts providing so much information. So first off, we see that this is managed via a CloudFormation stack. Wow. And allows me to go right to the CloudFormation console. Then we see this kind of map of resources related to my Lambda function. So we see that it is invoked by an API gateway. It has access or has X-ray enabled, has CloudWatch logs access enabled. There's other things that would be showing up here if the function had access to other services, say like S3. Then, the really awesome thing here today, so we announced the Cloud9 IDE. We have a Cloud9 experience in the Lambda console now. You can come in and do all sorts of rich editing, not just of this one file, but of other files that are inside of the repository that my application artifact is part of. And just a ton of different things, right? We see syntax highlighting, we see so many awesome kind of editorial features that are in here, various tools that exist in this, and it really changes the way that you're going to be writing code in the console. Coming down a little bit further here, we've really kind of cleaned up a number of the settings and how you access them. And then down here is a concurrency control.
Right.
So concurrency controls is one of the things that we've heard from our customers almost since day one of Lambda. A couple things that this solves for you. One is, let's say that you have a Lambda function and it's talking to a resource behind the scenes, a database, another API, whatever it is that it might be talking to, that maybe doesn't have the same scalability that Lambda does. It's very, very common. You can actually constrain the amount of concurrency that your Lambda function has such that it's not overwhelming that database resource, let's say, or that third-party API.
I remember when we were testing recognition back before it was released publicly, I was using Lambda as an invocation, and I got an email from somebody on the recognition team saying, "Hi, we have not deployed all of our capacity yet. We would appreciate it if you would stop trying to do thousands of requests per second." So this is pretty good.
Another cool thing about this is, let's say that I have an API, and my API is backed by a dozen different Lambda functions. And based on my workload from my customers, one of those Lambda functions is being invoked way more than all of the rest. What I could have had before this was the potential for my available concurrency to get starved out by that really hot resource. So what this allows you to do also now is basically allot some sort of percentage of concurrency to each of those functions, prevents you from having to deal with that potential effective DDoS of your available capacity. So really going to be helpful for our customers. Really excited to get this out the door. Again, the new console, come in and play with the Cloud9 IDE. It's super powerful. Really excited to see that out there today. I could finally stop editing my code in VI.
Well, it has Vim mode built in, so if you press escape right now.
Okay, so you got to scroll back down for just a brief second, though.
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Because we are actually, with the new console, we've got auditing and compliance built right in. So you've got that link back into the CloudTrail data event for Lambda Invoke. Today it just links you off into the console, but we're working closely with the team to actually be able to add this function directly to a trail here in the very near future.
One other thing I want to show here, so right now we're on the configuration tab of this function. If we hop over to the monitoring tab, a bunch has changed here as well. So one of the things that we can do is drop right into the X-ray console for this function. So if I was looking at this function, I thought that maybe things were amiss, I wanted to look at that information, very easy to pull that up. Obviously now we've got the concurrent executions graph showing up. And so again, we can just go right over here to X-ray. We see X-ray for this function, could dive into traces, all without having to go through the separate consoles myself. So much better experience from a performance troubleshooting perspective with this as well. So a lot of things went into the update here of the console.
It's been months and months since I've actually used the Lambda console. I do almost everything through the CLI, being a huge Vim nerd. But I think you kind of convinced me I need to go check it out again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth taking a look at. And again, I think
you don't need to be a YAML ninja anymore.
Yep. Oh, I forgot my password.
So we also have some other kind of API gateway style serverless enhancements as well. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. So we also announced VPC integration with API Gateway today. Now we previously have had effectively kind of two different ways of configuring API Gateway as of today. We have regional endpoints and we had edge endpoints. And edge endpoints were fronted by CloudFront. Regional endpoints did not have CloudFront in front of them. Today what we're giving you the ability to do is take your API gateway and actually configure it such that it can talk to a private resource inside of your VPC. So today you'd have to configure or provision a network load balancer, and then that network load balancer could be in front of all sorts of resources inside your VPC or resources that are inside your corporate data center potentially that you're connected to over VPN or Direct Connect. And so what this opens up for our customers is better security control over that backend for their API, but also the ability that you could have a single API interface, some resources that are on-prem, some that are in AWS, and maybe you're doing migration between those two. And this would help make it easier. And with the Canary deploys that we announced on Tuesday, there's just so many different possibilities for how you could work on migrating an API from on-prem to AWS, from compute-based to Lambda-based, just a lot of different things you can do today.
On Twitter, there's this hashtag AWS wishlist where people who want features, they go, hey, AWS wishlist, I would love it if we could get this thing. And I'm just, everything you just said, every word out of your mouth was crossing out one of those things.
Yep, we got 3 gigabyte maximum for memory, pre-announced Go and .NET Core 2. So it's a great day for some awesome serverless launches.
Chris, actually, can you talk a little bit about the memory in Lambda? How does it work? These are questions we get all the time.
Yep. So with a Lambda function, really kind of the only knob that you tune from a provisioning standpoint is how much memory is configured for that function. So up before today, we had the ability for you to do from 120 megabytes up to 1.5 gigs. And then what comes with that proportionally is an amount of CPU and network capacity. So with this 3 gigabytes, what it actually does is it doubles the amount of CPU now as well. So you technically get access to 2 CPU cores when you configure your function for 3 gigabytes, which means you could do some kind of improved cool things with forking and threading inside of your function. And for customers that are doing maybe processing of larger files, larger data sets, or that they need that more intensive compute capacity, this is going to help them out greatly.
And then there was one other announcement today in Werner's keynote as well, which is about the serverless app repo. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, serverless applications as a paradigm are kind of a new thing for people. And when they're looking to get started in the serverless world, they're often coming to us and saying, what are some really good examples of serverless applications? People are also looking to share the cool things that they've built. And you could do that via shared code repository services or just posting them online. But what the app repository allows you to do is go in, discover functions and applications that have been written by tons of different people, AWS partners, AWS employees, and soon kind of anyone out there on the internet. Discover these, implement them inside of your account, see the code, get access to them. So fantastic discovery mechanism. Also a fantastic way for companies to share functions that they have that maybe integrate with a product that they have.
Okay, that's really cool. So there are a lot of different serverless announcements. There's a lot of new controls around compliance and all of these advantages with CloudTrail now to be able to look in and see what you're recording, because you don't necessarily want to record every single Invoke, but lots of cool stuff. We have more announcements and other teams coming up very soon, so we're going to step off stage for a bit. We'll be back in 1 minute.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.